All right, well, have I got a nice little stocking stuffer for you today.
Oh, yeah.
253 new 11 rack rigs. You can just consider it an early Christmas gift. And if you don't celebrate Christmas, hey, that's fine with me. Hell, I'm an atheist, so I don't care. Get that stupid thing off. All right, let's get into this, man. What we've got here is 253 new 11 rack rigs, and all of these are matched to the rigs from 11 MK2, Mark II, Mach II, whatever you want to call it. I don't care. Okay, so all of these are matched, completely matched, and they're matched visually. So 253. So let me go ahead and dig into this a little bit, and then I'll give you the link in the description below. First off, what you download will be this file here. It'll be a zip file, about 254 kilobytes, right? Pop into it, and you'll see everything laid out like this: amps, bass, clean, crunch, overdrive. Okay. If we look at the presets for 11, the software version, 11 MK2, you can see everything is set up exactly the same way, pretty much, except for the amps. Okay, there's no amps on the 11 MK2. That's because if we look at the presets for 11 MK2 here, you'll see, okay, so there's bass, cab, clean, crunch, overdrive, and then all the amps right here just out in the open. I didn't want to do that for what you download for the 11 rack. I wanted everything to be in its own folder, so pop into the amps. That's all of the amps, just like are in right here. So that's the amps. So again, we have bass, clean, crunch, and overdrive, and cab. Okay, so obviously it's not going to really make any sense to have cab presets for the 11 rack, so those are not included. But other than that, we have bass, clean, crunch, overdrive. Okay, just like the presets here. So you pop into the bass, you'll see there's 14 presets. This is for 11 MK2. Pop into bass, these are the 11 rack rigs. You can see there are 15 files in here. 15 files because we have the XML file. That way you can use load all rigs from computer, okay? So that's why there's one more file versus over here, okay? And that's the same for all of these. Everything is set up with an XML file, so you can load everything from that category in one swoop. Pretty cool, right? I know. So here's the crunch and then overdrive. Okay. Also is, of course, a README. I always like to put READMEs in here, just so you know exactly what I've done. I like to mention what I've done here. Pull this back over here. So some things I want to mention is, again, 253 presets for the 11 rack. Okay. All of these have been matched to 11 MK2, to the plugin. Okay. Now, of course, because MK2 does not have any effects, all of the effects of the 11 rack are bypassed. Okay. So whenever you go to a new rig, it's just the amp and cab, except for the volume pedal. I left it on for convenience sake. And also another thing, this is basically a mono output. It's on a mono track. And as you may know, on the 11 rack, we can of course switch after the amp here, or the FX loop here. We can switch it to stereo or mono. Stereo is usually better if you're going to start using a bunch of effects after the amp. So I left it stereo again for convenience sake, but you can easily switch that right here from the editor just by clicking the speaker icon. Okay, now you can see it's one line, so that's mono. Click it again and it's on the stereo. You can also do it, of course, from the 11 rack just by scrolling down to the end of the chain on the output there. Make sure you choose mono or stereo. But I left it on stereo because more than likely you're going to start throwing on some of these effects here. Okay, I just want to make sure I mention that. Now, let's actually look at the naming system. So because the 11 rack is limited to 16 characters for our names, obviously I couldn't just use all of the names here, the full names for the 11 rack, because the character limit is much, much larger. So for instance, the Brendan Small 89 SL 102, there's no way I can fit all of that on the 11 rack. Okay, so I would have to shorten it to right here. You can see this is B Small 89 SL02. Okay, so keep that in mind whenever you're consulting the names back and forth, if you happen to have MK2, okay? But other than the name and, of course, the effects being off, True Z, I should mention, I made sure True Z was set to auto. That way, you can change that on your own. Another thing to address is MK2 has an input knob, whereas the 11 rack is, it's a set input source. So the resulting tone you get can be different. Now, what I've noticed between MK2 and the 11 rack is the 11 rack is warmer and darker, while 11 Mark II is, I don't want to say brighter because it's not necessarily brighter, it's a little bit clearer, maybe more articulate. It's more open sounding, whereas the 11 rack is a bit more warmer, maybe rounder sounding. And that's with the same exact settings, you know, across amps, cabs, mics, whatever. And that's pretty consistent through every single preset that I've done. And I had to spend a lot of time doing this, so I've gotten extremely familiar with it. I know in a previous video I said it's exactly the same, and it's pretty much exactly the same. And I still stand by that. It's exactly the same because, you know, there are other things going on, you know, input knob here, no input knob here, you know, where do you want to draw the line? But that's a completely different argument. You know, it could be because of the AAX protocol versus whatever's running on the 11 rack hardware itself, all that processing inside the hardware, but I don't want to get into that discussion. The point is everything else is completely matched up, you know, threshold, release, the output has been set on every single thing. Of course, you know, amp and cab, mic position, speaker breakup, every single parameter has been matched. Now, everything has been matched visually. Some of them I was able to match exactly by using the presets over here into the effect presets setting as I showed in a previous video, but there are a lot of them I had to match visually. So I just had to make sure like the angles were right, that they were on the right numbers, and if there are no numbers on the dial, I had to make sure they were pointing to the same letter, you know, basically the same angles. So some things may be a click or two off, but it's not going to really affect the sound at all. Let me just show you real quick the load from computer. So we can of course load from computer, and that would be whenever you choose load from computer, that's one rig file at a time. Okay, so here we are. So if I would to just load one rig file, I could choose, I'll say this one here, open, and that will load that one rig file. So you can do that with all these presets I'm going to give you. We can also do load all rigs from computer. That way we can choose everything contained within a category. So maybe I want all of the cleans loaded at once. Just choose the XML file, hit open, and that's going to dump all of those patches onto our 11 rack. All right, so there we go. Now, come here, all of our cleans, okay? And of course, again, if you're new to the 11 rack, this is just the user interface. All of this has actually been loaded on the physical 11 rack hardware. Okay, so I think I've mentioned everything I needed to say about this here. So again, everything contains an XML folder so you can load all rigs from computer. The rigs contained in the folders mimic the layout of 11 MKII. We covered that at the very beginning. You know, how everything's laid out here. Of course, we don't have cab settings, but clean, crunch, overdrive, bass. So clean, crunch, overdrive, bass, and then amps, of course. Okay. And again, everything's been matched visually. And I've already told you about the 11 rack being a little bit warmer sounding, whereas MK2 is a little more open. Okay, I've also mentioned the volume pedal is on, the volume set to 0, and True Z is set to auto. Again, 253 rigs, 33 in the amp category. And once again, if you forgot, amp would be all of these rigs right here that are just out in the open. 14 bass, 59 clean, 58 crunch, 89 overdrive. I dialed all these in myself, so that's why I can give them away to you, because I did all the work myself. All right, nothing's endorsed by Avid or anyone, not even your mother, okay? So no warranty guarantee, just like everything I give you guys. So anyway, so just head to my 11 rack users blog and you can download all these right now. Absolutely free for the taking for all of you 11 rack users. And don't forget to use that load all rigs from computer. You know, you're not going to want to sit there doing load from computer each rig. Just do load all rigs from computer through each category. Listen to what you like, keep what you like, you know, move off your 11 rack what you don't like, whatever. All right, guys, so that's 253 new 11 rack rigs, modeled after all of the presets of 11 Mark II. Okay, every single one of them is on there. So go check them out. Absolutely free to download. Really small download. Go check it out and get your little stocking stuffer. Before you head over to the blog, make sure you hit that like button, and I am out of here.